Aloha, Ohana. This is Dr. Go, and as promised, I'm going through the Excel Bible, Chapter 4 class exercise that we did earlier today. So I opened up the file that we worked through for today, and let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, what is a range of data? A range of data is a whole bunch of data that's all put together, and you can have those next to each other, but they don't have to be. For example, I can pick all of the variables. You see everything around that green box, but I can also go to other worksheets and add more to that. Like for example, if I and they don't even have to be next to each other. So like right here, you'll see all those different areas. That's because that's all part of that specific range. If I want to look at, for example, what's the total meat production that occurred 2000, 2001 for all four countries? I'm going to go to Cook Island first of all. 2000, 2001, we want to use a sum formula, which adds a whole bunch of things. You have sum, couple parentheses. Within there, you put the range. And for this one, I'm going to put, let's see, 2000, 2001. So I'll select those two, D41 and D42. Let's go to Fiji and add 2000, 2001. And I separate these by commas. If you look up in the formula bar, that is right up here. You'll notice it says sum D41, D42. That's because we're in Fiji. It already knows it's in that worksheet. This means we're going to the Fiji worksheet. And there's a little exclamation mark right afterwards in the range of cells that start from the upper left to the lower right-hand corner. But you can put as many of these as you want. I'm going to add a comma in here because I want to add a couple more. I want to add to this range. Let's go to Samoa. You'll notice that Samoa has a data horizontally instead of vertically, but that's okay. We can still do that. I'll just pick there. We go to Tonga, and Tonga 2000, 2001. And here's my answer. But you'll notice it has D41, 42 of this worksheet. Fiji has the same cells, but it's in the Fiji worksheet. Samoa is a little bit different because it has a different layout. Tonga also has the Tonga worksheet. Tonga, the exclamation mark, that means we're going to the Tonga worksheet, has D41 and D42, the same cell, but for a different worksheet. And that can be really handy, especially if you have a whole bunch of them. If you want to manually enter these in without clicking through everything, if you know of where that within that cell's your specific range needs to be. You can name a range. For example, let's say I've got a list of, let's see, A, B, C, whatever these are. Let's see. Apples, bananas, cocoa nuts. So I've got three different types of fruit. You can go on, however, I want to give this a name. I come up here, I'll just do fruit. Now it has a name. And so if I come up here anywhere I want, what happens if I put fruit? That'll be interesting. You get multiple values, so let's build them into the neighboring blankets. Got it. So I didn't like that very much because that's more than one cell. But no matter if you have numbers or whatever, if you have numbers, it's easier. Well, let's put in some numbers. We can look at that. We can evaluate that. So if you have here's a range of numbers, I'm going to rename this to números. That's a Spanish word. I can sum these. I can add up all these together, and I'll know what the value is. Or I can also do sum números. And oops, if I did it right, it would give me the same thing. Oh, looks like I didn't quite name these right. So I'll select that. There we go. Now you'll notice it's fixed. It says números, and it recognizes that that's a range of cells. So let's look at how we find things. One of these years, there was a year when there were 4,170 tons of meat produced. I don't know which one that is. And I could spend a bunch of time looking at each one of these. That would take a while. But instead, I'm going to look for them. If I go to Control F, that is find, and there's a couple ways you can do it. The other way, if you want to go the slower way, you go to the home ribbon and then do find and select, and that will give you what you need. So find and select that, then find, then you get this dialog box. The other way, Control F will bring that same thing up. So we are looking for 4170. Let's look, where is that? Oh, it's not there. I'm not closing that dialog box. I'm just going to the next worksheet. I'm going to look for it. Didn't find it. So I'll go to, let's go to Tonga. Find all. Nope, not there either. Well, makes it easy. It's the last one. Find all. And there we have it. 1985 in Samoa. And so if we're answering the country, answer for country, it's Samoa. The decade, it's the 1980s, year 5. This next one's going to be important too. In Tonga, there's a value of 9999, which should have been entered at 1502. It's not too uncommon for data entry clerks who may not have all of the values that they need. And so what they'll do is they'll put in a placeholder value that doesn't really fit, but it's easily recognizable. This is an example of one. So there's a 9 complement, which means there's a whole bunch of 9s. For everywhere there's a number, it's a 9. And we want to replace that with the value of 1502. If you don't do it now, the graph later on is not going to work out very good. Let's do replace. So I have the find and replace dialog box. So hit Control H, that'll open it up. I can also, in the home ribbon, I can go to find and select, and let's see, and that will bring me to replace, which is the same. It's this little tab in the find and replace thing. So I put in here, find what? 9999, however many 9s those are. And I want to put 1502, and then I'll click replace all. That means everywhere there's a 9999, it will replace it with a 1502. When I do that, it says it made one replacement. And it found where it was. It left it active, where the most recent iteration of that. If you have multiple ones, the last time it tries to replace something is where it is. So that looks like in Tonga 1975, we replaced that placeholder value with the appropriate tonnage of meat produced. Let's go to the poem that we have. And how many times, let's find this again. Let's do Control F, or you can go up to the find and select. How many times do you find, how many times does the word you, how many times will it find you? Click on find all, and there it is. It says right here, 7 cells found. And one distinction I'll make, one of our classmates pointed out, that's not the number of times that you appears in this poem. That's the number of times that cells have these. For example, if we look at this one right here, I don't understand when I needed you the most, you would leave me. So you is twice in there, yet it's only accounted for once. It starts peeling through each of the cells, and as soon as it finds it, it says, oh, my job is done, checks off the box, go find the next one. So and other programming languages are a little bit more intuitive to try to count the number of times that the word appears. But just remember, with Excel, it'll give you the number of cells that have that value. So that's what happens if we make it a capital U. Let's do find all. It still found 7, regardless of the case. You can do match case. Now, because the first letter is a Y, it will find all the cells that have a capital U in it. What happens if we do second letter capital? It's not going to find any at all. Take off that case. There we go, all 7. So if you want to find one with a capital Y, OU, match case, only 2 cells with that. Don't match the case, you got 7. Okay, so there's our Control F exercises. I wanted to talk a little bit about comments and a little about notes. I have a couple of each of those on this same worksheet. Like right here, there is a comment. So comments are really good if you're working on a worksheet with or on a spreadsheet with a whole bunch of with other colleagues and you want to have some dialogue about a specific text. So I have one set of footprints. Yes, that is correct. And I mean, not that it has to be that. I'm just trying to put some text in there. And you can have a conversation here. I'm just having a conversation with myself. But if you and your colleagues are putting those in, that could be interesting. I don't have that specific cell listed. Now, where are all the comments? There's actually an easy way to find where that is. Let's go to review. I believe it is. Let's see. Yeah, show comments. Let's see. So I clicked on this one right here, and then I want to click on that, and that will give me all the comments that are on this worksheet. And so here's one. If I click on the first one, it will activate the cell. So which means if I want to know where it is, I can look right here. For example, A11, so I come down A11, that's where the cell is. And for the first one, if I click on the second one, it will activate A18 where the other cell is. So that's kind of handy. And you can delete comments if you don't want them anymore. Once you're done, you have all the discussion that you needed. Now, in addition to comments, I put little notes. And if I click, I'm going to go to here where it says notes, it says show all notes. That's under the review. And then I have it under notes, show all notes. And they appear. Notes are like comments. You can edit them. For example, this has my name on there. I can delete that. You can put whatever, doesn't have to be whatever that is. And you can change this around. Where notes are really handy, where they really truly shine, is if you want to give instructions to somebody. You have a spreadsheet where they have to enter some bit of information. I put a note in here where it says input the date into this cell and the day of the week will appear. So what is 9/11/23? That's a Monday. You put whatever information you want. Typically, the notes don't appear unless that cell is active, or if you come in here and do show all notes. Now, I just toggled it off. But if I mouse over it, there you can see the instructions that correspond with that, or the instructions that I put in here. And you don't even have to activate the cell, you just mouse over it. And that's how the comments work. They're pretty handy. All right. So I think that's enough with this poem. Let's start putting some data together. You'll notice that there is a worksheet called Combined. And in here, we want to put all the information from every single of the other worksheets with their data in there. We go to this first one, tons of meat. I'll click on cell D2. I'll hit Shift, Control, and if you have a Mac, it's Command, Shift, Control. I'll tap the down arrow. And there's a couple ways I could do this. I could right click and copy, or I can hit Control C, which is a little bit faster. So that's Cook Islands. I want to make sure I go to the very top of it, which corresponds with that year. So I can paste it in the same place. The very first one, Control P, it's going to be Control V as in Victor. We'll paste it. And there I have the data for Cook Islands. Let's do the same thing with Fiji. So I'm going to hit Shift, Control, tap the down arrow, Control C to copy it. Combined, we're looking at Control V. And now that Fiji is in there, let's go to Tonga. Shift, Control down, copy that data, and paste the very first one that I pasted. Samoa is a little bit different because it has this data going horizontally instead of vertically. I'm going to hit Control left arrow, and that'll bring me to the very beginning. But that's not a problem for it to be horizontally. We can paste it vertically. And there's a couple, I'll show you a couple ways we can do this. If you're not really confident in how transpose works, maybe you want to paste it somewhere else, or you can paste it directly in. If I copy this, so Shift, Control, I tap the right arrow, I've got all that data selected, Control C, and then I come over here, I'll right click, paste special, and really what I could do is this number of values that's up here. Let's see, paste special. Actually, that's not, I don't want value, but I want to hit transpose. I want this dialog box to appear because I want to click on this thing that says transpose. And once I do that, click OK, and you'll notice the whole thing goes down vertically. It was horizontal, but now it's vertical. I can do the same thing. I can copy this over now that I know what it is. I just copy and paste it directly over. But I feel pretty good about my transposing. So I'm just going to go right to D2, paste special, transpose, and there we go. Now I've got all the data in this table. And it looks okay, but it could be better. But I guess that's okay. Let's see, the next question we had is copy every country's data in cell F63. What is the annual combined meat production? So the annual combined meat production average is 22,706.31. And, well, I can make it bigger. And it's not formatted very well, but that's okay. We can take care of that. But the if you didn't update, I think that was Tonga that had the placeholder value, you're not going to get the right number here. Which one of these 4 countries have produced the most amount of meat? Well, it's this double-lined one, which is Fiji. You can see that has much higher meat production. And we can format these, like for example, let's put these in numeric. If we select all the data, I'm going to paste or format cells, and I'm going to put it into a number. I don't care about the decimal. Those are kind of big numbers anyways. The comma separator is my friend. It helps me understand if I'm in thousands, billions, or trillions. I get confused without it. I got this data. Now it looks a little bit better, but I think we can add a lot more spice to it. If you go to Insert, which is the Insert ribbon, and click on Table. When you do that, make sure you are somewhere within the cell. So I'll click on Table. You can do Control T. And it says, where's the data for your table? Yep, that's it. And my table has headers. Okay. And now you'll notice I've got a bunch of these headers right here. The first row are the headers, which are really handy. I put the name of the columns are in there. So those truly are headers. But now I've got this formatted. I've got alternating between blue and white line, which makes it easier to read the data. And I have these filters, and these filters are beautiful. They are your friend. If you want to know how many years did Fiji produce more than 10,000 tons of beef? Well, actually, before we do that, how many years did Cook Island produce at least 600 tons of beef? And if we want to do that, we can look at this. Let's see, 219. Nope. 222. Nope. And if we do that, it's going to take a long time. It's easier. Click on this little filter. I'm going to click on this little thing right here. And there's a couple ways I can do it. I can click on Select All, which will unselect everything. That's kind of backwards, isn't it? But anyways, if it's not selected, Select All grabs it. Anyway, that's not it. So I can go through and click on each one of these that are at least 600 tons. And even better than that, I'm going to click on Number Filters. And this says at least 600 tons, so that's greater than or equal to. And I'm going to input the value of 600. Click OK. And now I can see all of the rows that have at least 600. And that's giving me 5 rows. So Cook Island has produced at least 600 tons of meat, only 5 times in 96, 97, 98, 99, and 2000. All those years are adjacent to each other. So something was going on at that point, which meant they could produce more meat, which is higher than their average of 459. Those must have been good years, at least for the ranchers or whatever type of meat that they're producing. Now that's one filter. If you have got all these other filters, it means that you can put multiple filters at the same time. That's where it gets really cool. How many years does Fiji produce more than 10,000 tons of beef, while Samoa produces less than 2,500 tons? Let's go to the Fiji one. Number of filters. More than 10,000. That's greater than. Let's put 10,000. And Samoa less than 2,500. Less than. That's two. Oh, let's see. Looks like we got 3 years here. And one thing I'll point out, you'll notice that the 19, 20, and 60 are the rows with the data. They're highlighted. That's because that's one way you know that it's been filtered. If those are a different number, if these are a different color than everything else, that only does that when it's filtered. You'll also notice there's a difference between these two. For Fiji, you have a little filter symbol next to it. Cook Islands, there's no filter. Tonga, there's no filter, but there is one for Samoa. That means Fiji and Samoa are the two that have the filters applied. Well, great. There's our discussion for today. I hope that was useful.